Well, for more on China's Mid-Autumn Festival consumption, I spoke with John Gong. He's a professor of economics at the University of International Business and Economics. And we began by talking about how different tourism will be this year.
I think it's going to be different in the sense that there's actually another big holiday right after this. So I think it's going to be a combination of two very long weekends. And I think a lot of people probably going to combine these two things and do some extensive travel, hopefully. I think this country, China, desperately needs these, real occasion travels to make up the loss of the economy because of the coronavirus. And I think finally we're able to turn things around, and these mini outbreaks started to subside, and I think people are getting back to the road again.
And do we have an idea as to where people will be traveling, how far, perhaps how locally?
I think that's going to be definitely domestically. I think it's still quite difficult for people in China to travel abroad. It's actually the government's policy to discourage traveling abroad because all the many outbreaks so far has been happening at the airport, being brought back from overseas. So I think the government to see that again, and I think that these vacations will be mostly overwhelmingly domestically, I think.
So then in terms of the mid-autumn figures, how do they compare to what we've seen over the summer holidays?
That we haven't seen yet. I think, we haven't collected statistics, we haven't seen the numbers yet, but I think there's some quite optimistic forecasts that I have read so far. There are some, reports from security companies talking about this extended vacation period, and the numbers they're saying are quite optimistic. So I think one thing we have to keep in mind that people have been dormant in terms of shopping for quite some time, and I think for many people, especially I think professionals in the cities, their wallets are packed. I think they're looking for occasions to spend some money, and I think in economics we have a term for this called the revengeful consumption. People haven't gone to the mall, haven't really have some extended travel for some time, and now they really want to enjoy themselves.
So for people who aren't familiar, what do people typically spend their money on during this holiday season?
I think other than travel, I think in China, if you know anything about China, eating cuisine is a big thing. So that's a big ticket item. People spend money on going to restaurants, buying mooncakes. The spring this vacation, this festival is all about eating mooncakes. I think you're going to see mooncakes selling quite well. And other than that, it's usually the ladies going to the shopping centers, so shopping malls to do some shopping. So I think it's going to be likely to be across the board. And I think even including the cinemas that haven't been doing very well so far, they're going to see some business opportunities in this case.
And we've certainly seen some more creative offerings when it comes to mooncakes as well as the traditional ones. What sort of spending do you think we can expect, given, as you said, this is really an event that's a lot about food and family getting together?
Yeah, other than that, I think one thing that we have to notice is that the consumption pattern in China is getting upgraded. In other words, people are developing more high-end tastes. They're looking for cultural goods, for example. They are interested in arts and museum, these kind of things. So I think it's a very good sign that it's not just about shopping and eating. There's a more enriched meaning of consumption behind it, and I think that's a very healthy development.
And you tapped on that issue of consumption. What can you expect then in terms of perhaps what this will do for China's consumption levels?
Well, so far, we know that the figures in consumption in the last 2 months haven't been very good, actually. The August number is well under expectation, and we all understand why, because of these mini outbreaks of coronavirus, and also I think because of the government's actions against several industries. The extracurricular education, for example, is being curtailed, and there are actions against these big tech, internet companies. So that's going to have an impact. And I think, I hope that these bad news have already passed. And from moving forward, we are expecting to see some recovery signs. And I'm still quite hopeful that for the entire year, we would expect to see some good GDP growth numbers. And I think vitally important in that direction is the consumption. And consumption has to pick it up. Otherwise, we're going to be in big trouble.
And what else do you expect to be driving the Chinese economy for the remainder of the year?
Well, I think one very significant development looks like it's coming from the government. The government understands that the numbers from July and August have been quite disappointing, especially on the consumption side. So the government is coming up with fiscal and as well as monetary policy. I think most likely strong monetary policies to encourage banks' lending activities. So I think there would be some on the investment side, there will be actions. So that certainly would help. The only worry is, of course, the inflation. But I think at this point, it's okay. I don't see strong signs of inflation at this point. There's some room for the government to maneuver around to develop some quite aggressive monetary policies.
Thanks to John Gong there, Professor of Economics at the University of International Business and Economics, for his insights. All right.